Friends, welcome to another live episode of Old Ladies Know Stuff. I can't tell you how excited I am to share this episode with you today because my friend Bob Smiley has agreed to come and talk to all y'all. And he has some awesome insights. He and I have spoken together at a number of homeschool conventions. And if you are a homeschool event planner or you know your homeschool event planner, give them Bob's name because he does a great job at homeschool conventions. But I'm going to bring Bob on and then we're just going to talk about all the things Bob. So I think I'll read your bio even after I get you on here, Bob. So come on, there he is. And we're going to say he's at a camp. He's speaking at, is it Young Life? Is that what you said it was?
Young No, it's a camp? Teen Challenge. And that's why
Teen Challenge. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm sweating right now because it's a Teen Challenge. And I've been hanging out all day with the guys, and we just did this amazing cardio workout called horseshoes, where you throw horseshoes at a stick. So it's quite the cardio workout.
That's funny. I actually interviewed someone who's the head of Teen Challenge in San Diego, California, and it was the most insightful interview. And I'll have to share that link with you so you can listen to it. But Teen Challenge is such an effective ministry, and boy, do they need to laugh. Anyways, let's talk about Bob. Bob is a comedian, and you've been doing stand-up comedy for 25 years all over the United States and Arkansas. And Bob has written 4 books for Focus on the Family. We love Focus on the Family here. Under the series he has created called The Adventures of Average Boy. The books, as well as the Average Boy podcast, are aimed at making kids laugh while encouraging them to be the best God created them to be. Bob is also very good at mowing and has a massive hotel shampoo collection. And we're going to hear mowing today while you're at camp. We're hearing it in the background, but we're just going to push through.
That's true. They just started mowing on cue.
And I'll say we're getting a little glitches here and there because you're on this some interesting Wi-Fi. So we're going to push through. Even if it glitches, we're going to keep going. So we're going to be great. So Bob, his newest book is Average Boys Above Average Summer. And it just came out September 17th of this year. I love that Average Boy is here to make you laugh and encourage you in your faith. I'm going to read the back cover copy of the book. The Average Boy series features humorous writing, and it is so much fun. My grandkids love it, and whimsical illustrations to help readers embrace the idea that life isn't always about being the smartest, most athletic, or best looking kid in the neighborhood. Love that so much. Faith, family, and friends are far more valuable than being perceived as cool. What happens when Average Boy Bob Smiley gets to the end of an above average school year? Why, it's time for an above average summer, of course. If things go according to plan, and Average Boy always has lots of plans, then this summer will be his best one ever. You see, Average Boy isn't going to sleep in until noon this summer, at least not every day. No, he has big goals for the next few months. This summer is when Average Boy will finally build that tree house he's been planning with his best friend, Billy. This summer is when he will brush his teeth every morning as soon as he finds his toothbrush. And this summer, he's setting a goal to invite everyone in town to church. Love that. There will be challenges along the way, challenges like Donnie, the school bully, or Sarah and Everly, who always seem to have water balloons in hand. But his biggest challenge this summer is the huge, hairy hisser who lurks in the woods behind Average Boy's house and seems determined to ruin his treehouse building plans. It will definitely be a summer to remember. I love it. I have 15 grandkids, 15, Bob, 15, and they love the Average Boy books and the podcast. You've got that going too. I was at a writers conference at Mount Hermon, and I got to meet Jesse Floria. How do you say it? Floria. And does the podcast with you. He writes with you. I can't tell you how happy I am that you are associated with Focus on the Family. So am I. I write for them and do shows with them. So happy that you're here today. So we're just going to jump in, and I'm going to ask you some questions. First of all, how close is the story of Average Boy to maybe your own story when you were growing up?
It is right on track. Average boy grows up. He lives in a very small town, so that's why inviting everybody to town. Uh, I grew up in a town with 281 people. Average boy is living in that town. Average boy lives in the house that I grew up in. Like it's pretty much. People are always saying, "Where do you get your inspiration?" And I'm like, I look at an old photo book of me as a kid and I remember stories and then I write them down. So Average Boy is the best way to describe it, it's a modern day version of me. So it's a lot of stuff that happened to me as a kid. Now, I've been writing the Average Boy series for over 20 years. It started in Clubhouse Magazine, the magazine that Focus puts out for middle school kids. So that many stories, I'm now drawing stories from my kids. My wife and I, we have 5 tax deductions, all boys. And so we basically have 5 little writers living at home with us, but they don't know about royalties.
Let's not tell them. So how old are they?
Yeah, just, I hope they don't look it up.
Yeah, no.
Well, they're getting old now. We're getting close. So we're now down to 1 kid living in the house, but they range everywhere from 13 to 24. But the 24-year-old, he actually just moved back in town. He's not living with us, but he's over at the house. We call him Laundry Claus because he comes in with a big bag that looks like it's going to be gifts. And it's a bag of clothes for him to do his laundry. And so we've only got technically 1 kid living at the house, but all the kids, 2 of them are going to Texas A&M. Rambunctious house.
My son graduated from A&M. My oldest son, he was in the Corps, ROTC, went into the Air Force from A&M. You know, we're from California. We moved to Texas. Actually, we adopted Tony into our family. We found him in Texas. And then when he went to A&M and we went on campus, we were like, where are we? It was like such a culture shock, such a different experience, but very, very cool.
When my oldest one, and actually, when he left, he was like, I'm going to get an engineering degree, and he said this, he said, but I'm not going to drink the Kool-Aid because A&M people are, my aunt and uncle, they have the disease, like all their couches, everything's maroon, their trucks. And so Trent said, I am not going to drink the Kool-Aid. And then he went to his first Texas A&M football game. And he called me at the end of the game and he goes, I drank the Kool-Aid. And he's now Texas A&M through and through. Like they get you. They get you. I didn't know you had a kid that goes it, but that's why we get along, because we're both in debt, like massive debt.
He's now old enough. He just retired from the Air Force. He was a fighter pilot. He flew the F-22. In fact, we'll brag on A&M for a minute. The Corps, he graduated college with a fighter pilot slot, and they only got, out of the whole nation, they only took 14 fighter pilots that year, and he was one of them. So yeah, it's a pretty cool. And he didn't, everyone's like, did he go to the Air Force Academy? I'm like, no, he went to A&M. And yeah, he full on drank the Kool-Aid. And it was like, the first thing we went to was one of those football games. It's like everybody stands through the whole game. They shoot a cannon when there's a touchdown. There's what's that? The unknown. It's not the unknown. What is that called? There's like an unknown man, some man.
The 12th man?
12th man. There we go.
The 12th man, not the unknown man.
The unknown man. Remember the Unknown comic back? Are you old enough to remember the Unknown comic? Probably not.
Oh yeah. I wore
a brown bag over his head.
I was in like elementary school, and he wore a brown bag and he was on TV. It was not me. No. Although at prom, I was the unknown kid, evidently, because nobody would dance with me. But
okay, so
this took a turn.
We do a thing at our church every year, and it's called Laughs and Lattes. And I have just for our ladies, we just get together to laugh, and especially as things have gotten kind of crazy in the world, it's like we just need to get together and laugh. And that's what I so appreciate about you and your ministry of laughter. And so we watched some of the clips from your shows, at one of our laughs and lattes. And I love if I can remember, the one where you were a kid with a sweaty hand and you were going to hold a girl's hand. Do you remember that story? That's such a good
I
story.
do, and that's a true story.
Well,
Where
for all the moms here
was,
that have all of this moms that have our junior high sons that are just starting to figure out the girl thing, this is a good story for us. So go ahead.
Yeah, my hand. I was standing next to a girl that I really liked, and take take the person's hand next to you, and my hand, it did not raining. Like there was a rain cloud formed around my hand, and I put it in her hand, and it slipped out. Which, you know, junior high, you're already as awkward as you can feel, and it slipped out of her hand. So I thought I would like squeeze her hand tightly so it wouldn't slip, not realizing that you shouldn't squeeze another person's hand if you have a sweaty hand. So it made a noise that sounded like I had just left Taco Bell in the middle of church. And this is a true story. And it made this loud, like gaseous sound, I guess is the best way to put it. And everybody looked at me, and this girl looked at me, and I actually did say, that was a loud one, which is the worst thing to say after that noise.
That's funny. I love it. I love it. So you have one son left at home. So when I met you was when my first book, Moms Raising Sons to Be Men, came out in 2013. We met at a homeschool convention that we were both speaking at. And there was just an instant connection. I've just loved your work. I've loved your story. And I've watched your story unfold. And I watched you kind of go through a difficult season. And what I loved was Nehemiah 8:10 is one of my life verses. I tell it so often in my own story. The joy of the Lord is your strength. And, you know, when they built that wall and Nehemiah pulls them all together to give them a pep talk. And what does he tell them? He says, the joy of the Lord is your strength, because there's truth that if we don't fight for joy when life is giving us those ups and downs, it can just really destroy us. And if our kids see our joy in the middle of some of our deepest struggles, our darkest seasons, that can be what testimony God uses to draw them to our Savior. So you went through a dark season, and you were a single dad for quite some time, right? And then when did you get married? I can't remember. It was
so I got married to Sarah at I almost said my current wife. That doesn't sound good. I got married to my final wife, I guess is what, in 2018.
Okay.
In 2018, but I was a single dad, and Nehemiah was definitely, I love the whole New Testament is great. Okay, just checking. I'm like, just throwing that out there to check. Yeah, no, yeah, it really was like, I was married 17 years, and she met this other dude. And I remember asking him, like, what does he have that I don't have? And she told me, and I remember thinking at the time it was a gun, but do you know what a 401k is?
I kind of do, yeah.
He had a huge one of those, and
not AK-47.
So yeah, no, totally different. But yeah, I was try to stay positive through all, because, you know, all of a sudden life was not looking like I thought it was going to look, and trying to find joy. Some of the silly things that made my boys and I laugh. You know, I look back on it now, realizing like, oh, God was actually using humor to kind of help us heal. You know, one of the things that one of the first times we laughed as the Smiley boys is we realized that since she had left, we could now touch any towel in our house, which may seem silly to people. But before, we had all these non-touchable decorative towels that we couldn't touch. And so the first time we really kind of laughed and realized like we're going to be okay was Xander came downstairs, and he was like, and he made a joke. He goes, "Is the divorce over?" And I was like, "Yeah." And I said, "Why?" And he said, "Well, because there's still some furniture left." And he was joking, you know, because there wasn't, but he
Oh.
said, he goes, if it's over, I'm going to go touch the towel. And we had this one towel in our master bathroom. And I know this is silly, but at the time, like, we were hurting and we needed this. So he just ran in and he just put his hand up and he just goes, freedom. And he touched this towel that we weren't supposed to touch. And the next hour we're like running around the house, popping each other with towels and stuff like that. And I look back on that and I was like, wow, that was a moment where we realized, like, okay, we're going through something like some tragedy, but God still has joy for us. There's still joy in this world to be found. We just got to keep our head, you know, just focused on God and looking for the opportunities that he gives us. And so, yeah, it was a pretty rough time, but it's kind of fun to look back and see how God kind of got us through it, you know, and a lot of it was using people from the church to come in and pray with us or help. I remember a lady called me one time from our church and she said, "Do you want me to come over and help teach the kids stuff?" And I was like, "What do you mean teach?" And she was like, you know, like laundry or dishes. And I remember telling her, "No, we can do it all at once. We have a huge pool." And so it was different experiences. My kids definitely had a different childhood than they would have had, you know, their mom not made that decision. But yeah, God got us through it. And now I was a single dad for a while. I wasn't interested in relationships or going out. Amazing woman on one of the 7 dating apps that I signed up for. Yeah, don't judge me. No, but yeah, I met this amazing, and she's got 2. So these are my kids. I don't know if you can see it because we're on dial up,
cool.
but these are my kids' initials. So Cole, my kids are Dylan and Mason. So she has 2 kids. So yeah, we're a blended family.
That's cool. And so I know that I have women that are listening that are walking through a dark time. They're walking through, dad walked out. Some of them are widowed, and that, my heart is with you. And some of them, like you said, never expected to be a single mom, never expected to raise these kids by themselves. And the joy of the Lord seems so far away. And what I was thinking of while you were talking about your story is weeping remains for a night, but rejoicing does come in the morning. And only God knows how he can take what was evil and use it for good. And I love how you just continued directing your kids' hearts toward the Lord. And I know that's hard for someone who is, you know, the rug is pulled out from under you. If someone's, you know, chosen a person other than you, that affects your own self-worth, you know, all the things. And these women, I think, can find just such a great resource, even for their kids, to start reading The Average Boy Story to them at night when they go to bed. Like it's humor and it's real. And these kids are, you know, getting the stories, that the same thing these kids are living through. And also your stand-up comedy. Let's talk about that, because I feel like there are times, you know, my husband's a pastor. There are times that people in our church family make stupid decisions and it just really devastates their families, their marriages. And you grieve right along with their children, with their spouse, that's a painful thing. And sometimes Steve and I just put on dry bar comedy and laugh at some of those. So tell us about your dry bar comedy.
Well, one of the things I'll say first, because you do have a lot of listeners that have probably either going through this or have been through this, where all of a sudden they found themselves single when they thought they had made a commitment. I just remind them, this is something to help me. You're not defined by your relationship status. So you don't have to be in a relationship to, you know, you don't have to be a power team. God created you. If you have air in your lungs, you are important to God. And he has a plan and a path for you. This of as soon as I found out, oh, I'm single, I felt like, oh, well, I need to be I need somebody to, validate me as a person and stuff. And you really have to have, like, you are important to God. So to start focusing, seeing what God has for you, that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm sure in the darkest hours, like you said, people from the church came and poured into you and your kids. Like sometimes when we can't bear the burden ourselves, having someone else come and speak that truth, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. But as far as comedy, yeah, I think God gave us laughter. I tell this on stage, but this is true. I really did read a medical journal that said laughter is 10 times more powerful than morphine, than our strongest drug. And God has given that to us for free. The joke I tell on stage is, now sometimes you need morphine. If I break my leg in half, I don't want my doctor standing over me going, knock, knock, like trying to tell me a joke. But honestly, God has given us laughter. I'm doing a teen challenge show tonight for these guys who have, somewhere along the way, they've taken the wrong path. Satan has lured them off, and their lives were headed for destruction. And for however they ended up here, and they're giving their lives over to Jesus. And it's going to be some of the best laughs, that I'm going to have at my shows this week, because these people have been broken. They truly know what joy. I love doing stand-up, and I love making people laugh, but especially people that are going through hard times. I love just to some dumb joke that I wrote, just real joy to be found in this place. And yeah, it's very cool to be a part of all that.
Yeah, I love that. I have a sister that died of an overdose in 2021. And she was multimillionaire film producer, highly successful in the world's eyes, and her addiction to prescription drugs just destroyed her. So yeah, any hope, glimmer of hope for these people that have found Christ, who has rescued them out of that addiction, and then to just have that joy and that laughter. What a gift that you're giving them. So you have already a dry bar comedy special, but you have another one coming up. Where is that? I'm looking in my notes to find that.
So I've already put out 2, and I'm about to film the 3rd one. So I'm not sure when that one is going to come out. But yeah, I'm about to have the 3rd one, and it's going to be all material about the blended family, and kind of my new life and everything. So I'm really looking forward to that. Also, because of what you said, I'm finding more and more people are, discovering that they're in that situation of being a blended family. And, people always say, oh, it's a blended family. I bet it's like the Brady Bunch. And I'm like, it was like the first 15 minutes of Saving Private Ryan at first. Like it's pretty difficult. So hopefully a lot of these stories will just help people kind of take a moment. If they're struggling with blending their kids together and stuff like that, they can just take a moment, laugh for a little bit, and just be reminded, like, it's going to be okay if you stay focused and you lead with love. That was the big thing, is of getting our kids to blend together, is just to realize, like, we're a family and we love each other because Christ loved us. And that moves the marker down pretty quickly. So I'm really looking forward to this special.
Yeah, I think so many Christian families, when this happens and they end up broken, they feel like they're the only one. And when they have a blended family, they feel like nobody else is, all the other good Christian families and the good Christian marriages that are doing well, we're the only one. And I think that your humor, following your story, celebrating with you that God gave you a really hot wife now. Like, wow, she's real pretty. And just watching even on your Instagram, I follow you on there and I see clips of your comedy all the time. Follow him at Bob Smiley for Instagram, and like those comments. I mean, give him some interaction on those. Let him know you listen to him and that you're on board. It helps a lot. And also just those little clips in the middle of my day. I just LOL all the time.
I want to tell you this because you mentioned that my wife is very attractive, and so I tell this on stage, but this is a true story. One night we were getting snacks to go watch a movie, and we were at our grocery store, and this is when we were dating, and this is how attractive she is. We walked up with our snacks, and the grocery guy, we set him down on the conveyor belt, and he looked at me, and he looked at her, and he picked up the and our stuff. So he basically was saying, yeah, there's no way she's with you.
No way you're together.
Like, yeah, that's what he was saying. And I had to like say, no, she's with me, but I wanted her for her own snacks. I had a dilemma there. So, but that's a true story.
That's so good. So we will be watching, go to Dry Bar Comedy. There's a lot of great comedians on there. What I love about it is it's clean. There's not swearing. There's not inappropriate things that are being talked about. It's like you can watch it with your family. And honestly, you can watch them over and over again. I get a kick out of them every single time. Find Bob Smiley's 2 that he already has. Subscribe. There's another one coming up. And then his Average Boys Above Average Summer is only one of the 4 in your series. So you can start buying all those.
Yeah, it's the 4th one.
Yeah, fourth one. And also I love the devotions for super average kids.
Yeah, those were the first 2. So those are Average Boys stories, but they have devotion questions. Each chapter is a funny story, but it's about what you're dealing with, like the importance of guarding your eyes or picking good friends or stuff like that. And so there's devotion questions at the end of each chapter. So that the books. And then the 3rd one was just a fictional comedy book, but there's still a lot of biblical takeaway stuff in that one. That one's called Average Boys Above Average Year. It's a year of him going to a new school. He deals with some bullies, and there you go, right there. That's it. That's where I sold the 1 copy. Okay.
Yeah, it's great. And honestly, for it's readable. The reading level, like my grandson is going to be 8 and he can read this. Like he's able to read it himself, which is, they feel good about that when they can read it themselves. It's like, it's not a little kid book. It's a big kid book. And moms, it's great to read to your kids. Grandmas, I'm a grandma. This is a great gift. You can get the whole series for your grandkids. You can subscribe to Clubhouse. Is it in Clubhouse Junior or Clubhouse Magazine? I can't remember.
It's Clubhouse Magazine. And you actually just reminded me of a story. I was at a festival when the first book came out, which was a devotional book. And yeah, there you go, Clubhouse. That's the magazine. But I was at a festival when the very first Average Boy book came out, Devotions for Super Average Kids, and a 72-year-old grandmother bought the book, and I chatted with her at my table, at my merch table. But it was a 3-day festival, and she told me she bought it for her grandson, and then she came back the next day and she bought another copy. And I remember talking to her, and I was like, you said you only have 1 grandson. And she said that she went back to her hotel that night and she started reading it and she started laughing and she got so caught up, she forgot, and she started filling out the devotion questions at the end of the first chapter before she remembered, like, oh, this is supposed to be my grandson. So she bought a.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's great. And I found the section in the magazine. Here's your section in Clubhouse. So that's another good gift to get for grandkids. Like if you don't, my kids, I have so many grandkids, and my children are like, don't buy them all the stuff. They have no room to put one more Lego tower. So I try to buy them experiences. So subscriptions are a great thing to the magazines. And don't forget that podcast that they can listen to also, which is through Focus on the Family. Okay. Are you froze up? Can you hear me okay? Your face is frozen with a big smile. I'm going to keep talking in case you can't. Bob has offered us a free download, and it is the full stand-up comedy special, Breaking Bob, which is super funny. I'm going to put the link in here in the show notes, but I don't know if you can, on the screen, I don't know if you can get them, but you can also, I will put it in the show notes and you'll be able to click on it and get the full stand-up comedy from Bob. Go to Bob Smiley's website and you can, book him for an event that you have coming up. If it's a marriage conference, if it's a homeschool convention, if it's any kind of an event that you think, a blended family event, a grandparenting summit, there's just so many fun things that you could do if you bring Bob Smiley on, and he will make your people LOL. He's been a great friend of mine, a great friend to this ministry, and I am just so grateful for the time that Bob got to spend with us. Obviously, he's fallen off of our radar. He's at a camp, and they're using a little booster to try to get him a signal. So we got what we got, which I'm grateful for. And you can watch this again live on the YouTube channel, and I will also take the audio and you will be able to listen to this interview on my podcast, Old Ladies Know Stuff, Life Lessons with Rhonda Stoppe and Friends. Thanks so much for joining us, Bob. Thanks so much for you joining us, and I can't wait to get with you again for another episode of Old Ladies Know Stuff. You all have a great day.